All right. So this is part 3 of how we turn youth into small group leaders and leaders. And the third point that we really want to stress is delegated authority is limited authority. What does that mean is one of the things that we really try to do in our program is build out, under like obviously a lot of oversight and supervision, opportunities for our youth to take on authority, right? Where we delegate authority in small bits. And, delegated authority is great because it gives the kids a sense of real responsibility and having real authority without having total responsibility and having to assume the full burden of that authority, right? So it's a way to practice being responsible, having responsibilities, having some authority without necessarily having to endure the severe consequences if you mess up, right? So I don't know, you want to give a couple examples of, some ways that may look like in the shop?
So I think we developed a tier system, and I think that was helpful. So everybody can come in on the same level. We teach them, really valuable skills. But then we've created a tier system where, as you show kind of what we said in the last clip, as you show, your ability, your humility, sort of your ownership, we can kind of promote you to like a different tier. So, that allows us to delegate different types of responsibility to different youth that are ready for it. And then the other thing we did was having youth train youth, and I think that was good too, because there were certain things, one, it really saved us time so we could focus on some other things, but two, it was a really great way to give some responsibility and authority to a youth who knew a little more than maybe another, like a newer person.
This is on like the retail bouquets.
Retail bouquets, but also with like when we were learning, centerpieces, doing practice. We would do practice if it was a slower day. So I would sometimes pair them up, with somebody who knew more than somebody else. And they would just impart what, I had trained them to do. They would train somebody else. And that I found to be really effective. So yeah, just getting youth involved in the training and leadership, kind of working alongside you in a capacity that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think too, like when you think about, so this is the thing, we don't have like a lot of like managers, right? It's uncommon for us to have like 15, 20 youth and you have like maybe 1 or 2 supervisors, right? So part of it sometimes is like we kind of create a situation, create an environment where it's a little bit about necessity, right? I would say about 90% of the actual flowers are being done by youth. Like if you look behind us, you just see the youth, they're doing the bouquets and the arrangements.
Don't get in the way.
And you don't see someone like right over them, right? Like you don't see an adult right over them telling them, hey, each petal has to go here, each flower has to be here, right? So they actually have a high level of relative autonomy. But now we have built-in checks, of course, like before stuff goes out, we do final quality control checks. But, like it really helps to build confidence, when kids get a real little taste of authority, a little taste of responsibility.
Well, and you have to make the training basic enough where they can really understand it, repeat it, and then trust that they will. And, you still have checks, here and there, and you can still correct little things, but, you've got to be able to trust that if you train them well and you made it, easy to understand, repeat, like they will be able to do it without you always being over their shoulder.
And the thing is too, is like when they're having that limited authority, because it's delegated, it creates opportunities for leadership, for them to practice leadership, right? So like what you're saying, when they're working, when you have a youth training another youth, right? Like it's giving them a safe, controlled environment to practice being a leader, because that's really where it starts, right? Like when they're training, that one young person on, okay, well, this is how we do our bouquet of the month. Like that's the follower. They're starting with one follower. And, they have to basically make sure that follower is being led well, because the expectation is, they're going to be able to replicate that on their own, that follower is going to be able to, then be able to create the bouquet of the month without having someone constantly training them and helping them, right? Mm-hmm. So, just having in built-in opportunities within your program so that they can practice leadership safely is a great opportunity. And that happens when you do have like delegated authority.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think too that when you think about having that type of environment, there needs to be good structure, right? And that's like something that you really built in is, you built in like a lot of structure. So like you said, we got like a tiered youth system. So there's opportunities for them to have, controlled promotions based on their performance. There's a lot of checks and balances to make sure that things, before they go out the door are correct, so that we're not getting a lot of complaints and that kind of deal. Because you know what, like people will leave negative reviews. It doesn't matter that we're a social enterprise, right? Like we've definitely got 1-star reviews, and we've had like unhappy customers. Thankfully, we have a 4.9 star rating on Google. Just gonna throw that out there. Basically a 5-star, but 4.9 star rating.
Close enough.
But so like when you were kind of like building the structure, like what were some of the things you were thinking about how you can sort of build in that delegated authority throughout the structure to help youth succeed and grow as leaders?
I mean, it had to be simple. So the steps have to be simple. You have to put in ways to be able to make it consistent. So we have a little thing that we put on the chopper where it's if you follow the system, every bouquet will be the right length, stem length, repetition, training on site, so a lot of those things.
Okay,
we
yep.
put
You
in
guys can go
place.
system order.
Let's go.
No, now
not
outside.
outside.
Now outside.
Here, you can.
Okay, guys, we're talking. Okay, all right, here. Go over there.
Here. Don't be in the way.
Yep, sorry about that. I ain't gonna lie, guys. It gets a little stressful sometimes trying to be a parent and a youth leader and running a program at the same time. Okay, anyway. You want to be authentic. This is authentic. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. Those were my points. Basically, just simplify the process. Make sure there's, it's kind of like foolproof and it's easy to learn. It's easy to repeat. Do something that, kids can get into right away where they don't need a ton of training or education or feel like they need to be smart or, super talented. Like put things in place where anybody can come in this case, create something really beautiful. And just with a few, really important steps, you can create something that, you can be proud of, that somebody can really love. And we're lucky to work with flowers. Flowers are beautiful. It's hard to really screw up something with flowers, right? It's just really beautiful. But those steps are important to have in place so that there's consistency and anybody can come in and feel great about what they created.
And the thing is, like, it also teaches accountability, which is very important when you're young, right? So not only are you giving them responsibility, but you're also teaching them accountability, because when they make a mistake, you hold them accountable, right? Like you correct them, or sometimes there's consequences. Let's say someone messes up on site. Consequence may be, you're benched for a while.
We've had to take them off so they don't get weekend work. They don't get, the opportunity to have a tip. So anytime a couple has tipped youth or, any event has tipped youth, that goes straight to youth. None of the managers get that. And that's also, I think, legal. Like you said, there was one time where I had one youth, there was supposed to be another youth that she didn't show up. So it was just me and this one youth doing everything. And she got the whole tip. It was over $300. So
that was her reward,
Yeah.
That's why you show up.
Mm-hmm.
But,
I'm glad she was there too.
and ultimately too, like when you have delegated authority built in throughout the entire structure of your program, what you're really doing is creating a leadership pipeline, right? Because, you never know when you're going to need someone. I mean, it's like in sports, right? Like, sure, you put your most talented players as your starters. You got your quarterback and your wide receivers. You never know when someone gets hurt and someone gets injured. And when someone does get hurt, it's next man up. It's the same thing when you're doing youth ministry. Is like you don't know when someone's going to leave. You don't know. We've had multiple. I mean, they're kids, right? So you get a lot of kids who will just try it out and they're like, "This ain't my cup of tea anymore," right? Even though they're like very talented and that kind of thing. Or maybe they get sick and it's a really big event day and they're sick and it's like, okay, well, next man up. I mean, we've had all sorts of situations where someone who basically got thrust into a position of responsibility and authority just because of circumstances, but because they were, in this program and they've had those opportunities to practice authority, practice leadership, is able to build their confidence. They weren't intimidated, and they were ready for the moment. And it keeps our operation going. So definitely being able to build that robust pipeline of young leaders just helps to make your overall program stable.
Well, I remember when I was in youth group and I was on the leadership team, and the way it was structured was there were, these different groups that would lead the activities or the thing for the Wednesday night. And so we had a lot of say in what we were doing. And I think that probably helped me in developing my own leadership, potential, which now I can play out in a greater way. So, it's a really important age to find ways to build the leadership potential in them, so they can kind of go out and build on that later when they're an adult.
All right. So yeah, I think we kind of hit all of our points, and but yeah, at the end of the day, building in delegated authority within your program is, in my mind, an essential, just because it does really help bring out the potential in young people. So.